Welcome to Have You Seen This? The world's only podcast about obscure, overlooked, and misbegotten visual media. All discussions will be spoiler heavy. You have been warned.
Welcome to Have You Seen This?
Yeah.
It's Jen.
And Tim.
And our favorite guest of all time. He is small of stature, but the women he loves are wide in width. It's Mike Rosen. What's up, Mike?
Hey, it's me. Thanks for having me.
You know, Josh Olson just threw his iPod across the room, finding out he's not our favorite guest.
Well, I like to engender a healthy sense of competition among the people we have on the show because you don't want them to get too complacent. You don't want them to think that they might have a chance at a third mic position on a show with 80 listeners.
Yes, fight for my affections.
Exactly. And
80 listeners, that's like twice what I thought it was.
So, we'll be remote and beautiful like a princess who's had her voice dubbed.
By the chick from House of Games. You should watch that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Lindsay Krause dubbed Lizette Anthony in this movie. I think a lot of people have already guessed what we're talking about, but I'll throw it to the guest. Mike, what are we talking about today?
I would not have guessed it from what you just said because I know nothing about the production of this movie, but we are talking about Krull, the greatest film in human history.
Okay, yeah, because my follow-up question was going to be why? Why are we talking about Krull?
Because Krull fucking rules.
It rules a very small, picturesque kingdom where nothing ever happens, I have to say.
Well, yeah, but that's
Okay.
because they need plenty of open spaces for adventuring.
Okay, Mike, what single-digit age were you when you first saw this movie?
I was I think I was about maybe like 8 when I saw this. What year did this come out?
1983.
Okay, so technically I was 4 when it happened. If I saw it in a theater, which I don't think I did, I saw it on like home video. And for most of my youth, I remember just being like, the spider. I like this. There's a giant spider in this movie. It's pretty cool. But then I saw it again as an adult, and I realized even though the spider is pretty cool, there's a lot more to recommend Krull than simply a spider.
The spider is pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'll say this. This is a film that has it all. It has spiders, it has action, it has adventure, it has romance, it has comedy, it has fire mares, it has a cyclops with real blinking action, and it has magic and mayhem. So if you want the movie that will just fill you with joy and good feelings in a kind of good way, get Krull.
Right.
I kind of faltered there.
Yeah, so Krull sounds good on paper. On film, however, that's a different story.
On film, it's even better.
I think I'm going to fall in between the two of you because I enjoy this movie in spite of its flaws. Maybe that's because I'm always looking for a fantasy movie that actually works. There are so few of them. And this one is somewhat derivative. It's amazing like how much it rips from Star Wars.
And improves.
Well, we know how Mike feels about Star Wars.
More like Star Wars.
Star Wars was a big movie. It might have been influential.
Exactly. And, like genre entertainment tends to be derivative because, you go to it to get like certain things out of it. I have seen this on a big screen, albeit with a Riff Tracks commentary, which was very funny.
Yeah, that'll change the whole experience.
Yeah, and I just revisited this one in 1080p on my home screen, and, I still had a good time. It doesn't entirely hang together for me, but whatever. I mean, this movie really got savaged when it came out. Critics really did not care for it, and it did not make its money back. It was a budget of somewhere between $30 to $45 million. I think there was a lot riding on it.
That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, and it didn't happen, but as we all know, it's a cult film, and
It has really nice effects, but it is like narratively inert. Like, and the problem is all these effects are in service of me just sitting there going, "Wait, who's this guy? What's going on? Why is this important?"
There are only 10 characters in the film. They're not that hard to follow.
Yeah, I guess that's my fault. I mean, there are 10 characters. Yes, there are some great actors in this. You have Francesca Annis, Freddie Jones, who later people saw them in this and are like, I got to get those actors for Dune, which is what made Dune such a blockbuster. You have a young Liam Neeson.
Yep.
You have Robbie Coltrane. You have some other jerk-offs.
you have a coterie of mostly British character actors who are the kind of people you get when you kind of want to elevate this material, because they're going to look like they're taking it seriously. I think this was good preparation for Liam Neeson for doing Phantom Menace.
Yeah, who is his agent? I mean, just playing like just these I don't know, walking sleeping pill characters.
But the thing is, you can't say that Liam Neeson hasn't had like a really long and successful film career. And I mean, you do a Star Wars movie, like you're pretty much set for the rest of your life if you have like a major role in it.
Yeah, he's saddled with this dull character. They elevate the material, but I mean, out of 10 characters, and a lot of them being named stars, like the movie really has one star, and it's that fucking spider knife thing that the guy holds.
You mean the glaive?
No, I mean the chakram, because a glaive is a sword or a pike.
Check out the SEA nerd over here.
Yeah, nerd.
Or a mambele, which would be the African equivalent of a tomahawk. Yes, they can call it a glaive, but it is a misnomer writ large.
Did you write the review in Starlog that I found? Because you sound just like the guy.
You mean knowledgeable about things that are important? Yes. Great. I hope I sound like that guy.
Honestly, like, I have seen like other people quibbling about the glaive, and I really don't give a shit because I don't know anything about weapons. Whatever, it's a thing that he uses at the end to like kill the final boss.
Yeah,
it's a red herring.
Yeah, that's true. It actually doesn't kill the final boss. The power of love is what kills the final boss.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the glaive, which is a chakram, that only works as like a skill saw to cut through the princess's prison. It's a magic saw blade.
Now, before Mike starts crying, Tim, I do have to ask you: were you not able to use your special powers of turning most of the movies that we talk about on the show into some kind of tabletop role-playing game to get through it?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why I had to look up glaive, because I'm like, that is not the correct term. So I got out my compendium of contemporary weapons and flipped through that and saw that sure enough, the chakram, the token weapon used by Xena Warrior Princess, is what they misattribute here as a glaive. It is a round. It is a sharp-edged disc for throwing. That is, it's of an Indian design. Anyway, so yeah, that's one crucial thing. Another thing that I would take away from it, role-playing wise, is that it does sound a lot like the adventures I run, which is they're pretty linear. They're railroading, and there's not a lot of interesting stuff that happens. Take for example, when the old guy, Freddie Jones, is like, "Oh, you must get the glaive." It's called a glaive, but it's not an actual glaive. It's not a sword or a pole arm. So he's like, "Oh, you got to get the glaive." So that is supposed to be the first part of his adventure, and the adventure is go to the mountains, go to the cave, root around in some lava, retrieve the item.
Mm-hmm.
There's no conflict anywhere in there.
He doesn't have to stick his hand in lava.
Are there any ill effects that are suffered from that?
Well, he's worthy.
Yeah, he's the chosen one.
Okay, so there's nothing at stake. There's no actual challenge.
No, see, we the audience didn't know if he was worthy before he did that, but then he did it, and we know now that he is worthy. He didn't know that he wasn't going to get his hand burned off by lava when he did that.
So if he wasn't worthy, then the movie would have been over.
That's right.
Yeah, which
Okay.
honestly would have been pretty funny if he'd run out of the cave screaming with like a flaming stump.
Yeah, or why didn't he just grab it with a stick?
Well, there were no
It's
sticks in
okay.
the cave.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true,
no
yeah.
sticks in the cave, smart guy.
Now, jumping off from the glaive thing, I do have to read from the Starlog review, and kind of a mixed review of the movie, which I think is fair. He does delineate the positives and negatives of the film, but his quibble is not just with the glaive, but with the poster, and it goes thus. First, about that poster, which is bound to be up somewhere in the theater when you go to see Krull. Even the dullest observer will notice the greenish-white rays flashing from the upraised glaive, and the logical assumption that it is, in fact, some sort of energy weapon with which Colwyn attempts to blast the bad guys. Well, let me tell you all right now, so you won't sit through the whole movie waiting for him to blast somebody the way I did. The glaive, although it does some nifty things, does not shoot out rays from its arms as shown on the posters. And Colwyn never holds it up and blasts with it like that, any more than Carrie Fisher ever showed as much leg in Star Wars as she does on the posters. I hate deceptive posters, and I wish they hadn't done that.
Oh
So
my god,
that's why
stick this guy's head in a fucking toilet. Jesus Christ.
So that's why he gave Krull and Star Wars half a star.
Also, I'm going to point out, first of all, what the fuck? Oh, it's just an energy weapon. Shut the fuck up. Secondly, it is a glaive. A glaive is not the name of the kind of weapon it is. A glaive is the name of the thing. It is the glaive. It's not just like any old throwing star. It's the weapon that, it's the MacGuffin. It's the thingy that shows that he's chosen. That's why it's the glaive. Also, I don't see any other, what do they call shockers? That have little, like, that have things that stick out of them like that. Little knives. They don't have knives
It's
on
a
a shocker.
switchblade chakram.
That's right. That's why it's very unique. No one
doesn't
else in the
make it a
world
glaive,
of Krull has a glaive. If you made a chakram, it would not be the glaive.
Mike, if you have a problem with this article, I suggest get in touch with a guy called Lawrence Watt Evans. But be careful because it says
Lawrence
that
whatever.
he's a Kentucky-based novelist who specializes in sword and sorcery. He also writes a regular column for the Comic Buyer's Guide. So, formidable opponent.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to put on my Letterman jacket and stick him in a locker. Having read some of the contemporary reviews by critics in 1983, all I can say is these guys are absolute clowns who do not know what they're talking about. This is a movie that, it has its problems. It's not a great movie, but
True.
I think what's happened is everyone is like, we're just going to, it's not Star Wars, so we're just going to say it's bad. And then it just got that reputation. Everyone's just agreeing, like, oh yeah, we're just going to say this movie is bad so that we look smart. We look like a discerning audience who doesn't like derivative fantasy. Even though this fantasy, I will say, is substantially less derivative than the beloved Willow. That is a derivative fantasy movie. This movie has a lot of weird shit in it that I've never seen in any other fantasy film or fantasy book for that matter. It's just weird. And
That's probably just as well. Why are we reviewing these movies then? Between this and Willow, my God.
No, we just wanted to know how you'd shit on them.
it is.
Thank you for wasting my time.
This movie does have the basic structure of a, basic quest fantasy film, where it's like, oh no, there's a guy, he's kidnapped a princess. We got to get together a party and go into the wilderness and fight some monsters on the way to the evil castle, which, when you kill the villain, it will collapse because that's how it works. So yeah, the basic structure is pretty standard, but there's all sorts of wacky adventures along the way. And,
Are there?
But they're for a given level of wackiness.
Okay, well, yeah.
Look, guys,
If you're starved for wackiness.
I am just saying that, like, I can watch this film, today in the year of our Lord 2021 and be, yes, I was entertained. I can watch the original Star Wars in this year and be like, wow, that's a fucking slog. I'm just saying, I prefer films that are not boring, and this film is not boring.
Well,
yeah, you had me up until the end.
well,
It's got
I gotta be honest. Like this kind of sounds like a case of pick your poison here, because and keeping in mind that this is a anti-prequel and probably anti-sequel podcast.
Yes. Yeah, completely unnecessary.
Tim and I are like original trilogy folks. Like I don't, Mike has never been interested in Star Wars. I came to this
more like
movie-
Star Wars. Did I say that before?
It bears repeating.
Is the joke so nice? I said it twice.
I came to this movie kind of late, so I sort of knew what to expect. I didn't know if you had actually seen it before, though. Tim, had you?
No, so thanks for ruining that for me. Like, are you going to make me listen to Call Me Maybe now?
That's a good song.
Oh,
I'll take your word for it.
Wait, what? I don't get the Call Me Maybe reference.
I've never listened to Call Me Maybe.
Oh, well, that's
Really?
fine.
Oh, Tim, you're
Yeah.
missing out. That song's
I don't
a bop.
feel like I am. I think there's a subreddit of people who've never heard it.
It's
It's
fine.
kind of like Never Broke a Bone.
Yeah,
I
you
like,
mean like the subreddit of like of Buzz Killingtons.
People who do not pollute their ears.
I like other songs by her better.
Okay.
She's pretty good.
Well, we should call this episode Krull Me Maybe.
There, see, it was all worth it.
I
all
wouldn't
leading
go
up to
that
that.
far. Yeah.
Well, gosh, where to start?
Well, sci-fi and fantasy can coexist, and I will point to the He-Man and She-Ra cartoons as evidence thereof. But it does
The
not work here.
cartoons?
Well, it works fine. It works perfectly good.
Wait. The cartoons?
The He-Man cartoon?
Those I like He-Man. Like I like the characters. I like those iconic designs, but those are not good cartoons.
All right. Are you really more of a My Little Pony or G.I. Joe or
I love the ponies, but that was not a good cartoon either.
Strawberry Shortcake?
None of those, and Mike can back me up on this. None of those '80s cartoons were good. They were literally just like a medium to sell toys.
Yeah, they're all bad except for
For kids.
Dinosaurs. But
Okay, well, maybe it's the premise then.
well, the thing is, I think that fantasy and science fiction can coexist, and they do perfectly well in this because the plot is it's a fantasy world, and then a space monster flies his spaceship into the world and decides to take it over. It's like, oh yeah, science fiction thing just crashed into a fantasy world. Makes total sense. Much more sense than fucking He-Man, where He-Man is like, I got a magic sword, but I also have a laser. Okay, you have both of them? All right, sure.
I find it interesting that you take issue with He-Man and yet you praise Krull.
Yeah, because I like good things.
That you like Krull.
Yeah.
That doesn't scan.
Well, okay. So someone should explain what Krull actually is, since we've been talking like 20 minutes, just yelling, good,
yeah.
no good, good,
Okay.
bad.
Well, we should. Yeah. Well, Krull is the name of the planet this takes place on, which is like if you called Lord of the Rings Middle Earth the movie. So already I don't get that. It is, yeah, like Mike said, it's a space monster, comes to a medieval world, and he abducts a princess because he just loves cliche.
Yeah. Well, he's doing the Bowser thing,
Yeah.
He wants to marry her, and so her boyfriend, Colwyn, the man with the tightest pants in all the kingdom, he has to get a band of merry men together and go fuck up the beast shit and save her. And to do so, he has to get the glaive, which is, a shocker? It's
Chakram.
It's a chakram.
He's got to do
with
the shocker to.
Did you
beast.
not watch Xena Warrior Princess or even Hercules: The Legendary Journeys?
I'm sorry. I was
Too busy rewatching Krull, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I don't pollute my eyes with inferior entertainment products.
Okay.
Yeah, so then, and on the way, yeah, they see they do some monster shit, and, then they fuck up the beast and save the girl, and everything ends happily. The end. That's Krull. That's the basic outline of Krull. It doesn't sound like much, but
Yes.
I think they acquit themselves adequately because
If
Mhm.
if my exposure to Krull was just listening to Mike's summary, I'd be like, yeah, okay, and then I would be glad to have been done with it rather than have spent 2 hours watching it.
But here's the thing though that I say is
Okay.
like, okay, so I enjoy this movie because the feel of this film. First of all, the vibe of this film, it's a swashbuckling adventure. It's very much like like I don't know, Captain Blood or the old Errol Flynn Robin Hood. It just
Yeah.
has that vibe.
In fact, Peter Yates, who directed it, said that they were specifically trying to get a little bit of a Captain Blood, Errol Flynn feel in there. Peter Yates, as some of you will know, also directed Bullet, which is weird. He also directed Breaking Away, which is a pretty good coming of age movie.
Not a lot of swashbuckling in either of those, though.
No, but Peter Yates read the script and thought it was interesting. I would be curious to read the original script because apparently it was called The Dragons of Krull. And at some point they dispensed with the dragon. I think
They're like, that's a little expensive, yeah.
Well, I think because the movie Dragon Slayer with Peter McNichol had come out and failed. I'm honestly not sure why so many people tried to make fantasy movies in the 80s, and honestly, like, I salute them for it because it seems like they were constantly just fighting this uphill battle. Like a fantasy movie would be made, it would come out, it would not make its money back, somebody would try again.
Eventually, yeah, someone had to learn the hard way each time. Just like, and I mean, this kind of reminds me a lot, not just of Dune. A lot of the visual effects or aesthetics seem very Dune reminiscent, even though this came out the year before. This is also similar to Dark Crystal, another beloved movie that did not perform well at the box office.
Tim, what do you think of Dark Crystal?
I love Dark Crystal, but then again, I saw it while Mike was jerking himself off to Krull.
I didn't watch the Dark Crystal when I was a child.
It's great.
A bunch of fucking puppets. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Shut up. I know you love Dark Crystal.
No, Dark Crystal's fine. It's a fine film. I enjoy it.
Speaking of Dune, I feel a little bad for Francesca Annis because she did this movie, then she did Dune, and then she did Under the Cherry Moon.
Yeah. You think Liam Neeson had it bad.
By the way, it's actually Francesca Annis because Tim wants to see hers.
Where's the lie, as Jen would say.
She is a very beautiful woman.
She's a very beautiful woman. Yeah, and I was looking forward to seeing her in this through this whole ponderous, 70 minutes of this fucking thing. And then finally she shows up, and she's got, the old age makeup, and then she's rejuvenated talking to Thufir, and I'm like, oh, that's very sweet. The rest of the movie, though, you could cut the rest of the movie out, and I wouldn't be upset.
Well, they couldn't give you too much of her. They have a little bit, so the audience is like, "Oh, that was good. That was just the right amount of Francesca Anus."
Yes, just a little kiss of anus.
And that's what Ralph Fiennes said when he cheated on her.
Oh, what a cad! What a jerk
exactly.
face.
I think that he left someone for Francesca and then cheated on her with someone else. I could be wrong. It might be
Hollywood.
Maybe she.
We'll do a separate episode about that.
Maybe she fucked around on someone else and got with Ralph Fiennes, but I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But they were together for at least a decade, never married. But all good things must come to an end.
And it's and
regarding
she does get a and or with credit, which is nice. That's that's how you know to look forward to her.
That's right, and
because her scene's going to be good, whatever she's in.
I will say. When I saw this movie is one of those Fathom shows where they broadcast to a number of theaters around the country for riff tracks. I was watching and I was like, okay, this is pretty much what I expected. It's it's pretty rote, but the Widow and the Web scene is so weird that was the point where the movie kind of won me over. Because
it's like they took a short story and inserted it into the middle of this bland script.
Well, yeah, because there's so much weird, heavy shit in that scene.
Yeah,
what did he do to her to make her kill their son?
Well, he left her.
She's a shitty person. She's a shitty mother. That's
damn. She must have been
Jen,
that's why I left her.
He had duties and responsibilities.
Ambitions, Mike.
Oh, is that what he said? Oh, that's what she says.
That's her counter. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the point is, so obviously she
They're
kills the son, and then her punishment is to be in this giant spider web. I don't know who's punishing her. There's apparently a lot going on in the world of Krull that we don't get to see in this film.
right.
Not a lot is explained about the world. In fact, maybe you might say it's a real shame that it flopped so much, because we will never get the expanded Krull universe that will explain all this weird shit that's going on in it.
That's it's funny because I was thinking while I was watching it, I was like, I'm kind of glad that this flopped, because I'm glad that there was at no point has there been people trying to explain like, oh, let me fill out the backstory between Wiener or whatever his name is and the lady of the web, or like, oh, let me
Widow
tell
of the
you...
Web.
Thank you.
There's like a Dark Moon, like expanded universe, like novelization or something that they're reading on 372 pages.
Yeah, like sometimes I just,
Or Shadow Moon, sorry.
Sometimes it's just cool to get like a glimpse of a history between characters. And, that's what makes the scene stand out, is that, I mean, there is history here.
Yeah, they actually gave like a modicum of texture to these characters rather than being like, well, he's the future king and she's the girl that he's supposed to marry, and then there's some rogues who are like, okay, we'll help.
I feel kind of bad for Ken Marshall, who plays the lead, Prince Colwyn, because I think he does fine. He got pretty good drubbing from critics for being bland or whatever, but a lot of times hero characters are pretty bland. And I was reading, they did some press around the time that the movie came out, obviously to kind of try to make something out of their male lead, and he was talking about something which I think many actors who followed in his footsteps found out working on movies like, the Star Wars prequels. And this is a quote from Ken Marshall. "The hardest thing for the actors in these movies is having to act in a scene where there's an effect which won't be inserted until months later. Peter Yates kept us going by describing what was missing. But you do feel silly at times. There you are stabbing this thing which is supposedly in agony and melting when your blade passes through, yet you're standing there not knowing what you're doing. Now, you would think in a situation like that you would want to laugh, but the opposite is true. You must really concentrate to get through those scenes. They really demand all of your imagination and concentration."
Yeah, that's what Ian McKellen was lamenting about working on the Middle-earth movies. Sorry, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and these are very like highly trained actors. Like, like Ken Marshall is actually like a legitimate like stage trained actor. He's learned like sword fighting and all that other shit. And he gets a shot at a feature, and it just sinks like a stone. I feel bad for the guy because he did an okay job. It's when you have to carry the movie and you're not given a lot to work with. I do feel like he and Lizette Anthony have chemistry in their brief scenes together. I mean, they really seem like they want to fuck.
Yeah, I mean, that's just being a regular charming actor.
Well, no, the actors are fine. They're all fine. All the actors in this film are fine. I don't know why everyone keeps shitting on them. They all acquit themselves adequately. And this film, I mean, it's a film that I'm just going to say, it's a fantasy adventure film. We don't need super deep characters. The characters just need to be sketched enough that we know what their deal is and we vaguely care about them. And this film did that for me. I mean, I watched it like, okay, magician, comic relief, I get it. Okay, Cyclops, stoic, he's tragic, I get it. A lovable rogue, I get it. It all fits, and they have very brief character, moments that kind of like I would compare to like Mad Mardigan and Willow arguing about feeding the baby in Willow. There are small moments like that throughout this film that help to establish the characters. Like Ergo and Ren probably have about like 3 scenes together and spend 5 minutes in the entire film. But when it comes to the point where Ren is saying, Ren, or I don't forget, but the Cyclops,
doesn't matter.
When he's saying, I have to stay here, and Ergo says, we had no time. I believe that. I felt that. I felt, oh yeah, they have established a friendship by this point.
Well, yeah, because he starts off being like really afraid of the Cyclops, as any normal person would be.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm saying they don't spend a whole lot of time in this relationship, but you get a couple scenes, and just enough so that you kind of get, you understand it, and you feel kind of bad when they have to break up. And there are other things too, like Torquin, when he's all like, oh, when Colwyn says to Torquin, the bandit leader, okay, here's the keys, unlock your manacles, and he's like, I'll unlock them when I finish this quest, or I'll die in them. A very, very typical fantasy rogue type thing to say, but it establishes, okay, I know what kind of character this is, and you kind of like him.
Well, and they did get a little bit of a through line, going through the movie, where at the end, like, he has the opportunity to unlock his manacles, but you get the impression that he's going to stick with the new king.
Yes.
So like, that's happening.
And I know we don't. And people are saying, "Oh, Liam Neeson doesn't, have a lot to do." Yeah, he's basically like Rogue number 4. I mean, whatever. He's not a main character.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's like, look, you got your king, your comic relief sorcerer, a Cyclops, the head rogue, the old guy, a child, and then a bunch of generic like cannon fodder. We don't care about. I mean, they're cool to be there, but they're there to die so the plot can continue. Because this isn't fucking Star Wars. It's not a movie for babies. People die in this movie. And, they have dramatic death scenes where they say, it was all worth it. Blah. And it's like, oh, man, big mood.
If they're cannon fodder, maybe have less of that. Maybe have less filler in your fantasy movie.
Well, you gotta have... Every fantasy movie involves the quest to get to the castle. You can't just appear at the castle and be like, we're just going to fight the big bad now. The movie would be 10 minutes long.
And why is that castle so hard to get to? It seems like the teleportation thing just comes from out of nowhere and doesn't really mean anything.
Well, it's because it's space monsters.
That's kind of neat, though.
Yeah.
Like,
why does it travel through space if it can teleport?
Okay, yeah, here's the thing. Because it's a fantasy movie, all right? Now, if you're a nerd, you'd look at this and be like, well, these things don't make any sense. If you're a normal person, you watch a fantasy movie and things happen that are weird, and you're like, well, yeah, of course, because it's a fantasy movie. That's what happens. It's like at the end when they kill the beast and his castle just falls apart. There's no reason for it to do that. But if you watch fantasy movies, you know that's a thing that happens, and this is a fantasy movie, so it happens.
Mike is sponsored by TV tropes.
Yeah, just turn off your brain and enjoy it.
Just saying, if the castle did not collapse and they just walked out, people would be like, what the fuck? Shouldn't the castle collapse? And then they'd be like, I guess not, but seems kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, the antagonist did get killed, apparently, but, the castle didn't fall down.
Yeah, he ate a glaive.
How else would I know?
How will you know? Look,
yeah,
it's a movie. It's got I'm just saying it's a fantasy movie, so there's certain things that happen in fantasy movies.
Right. I will agree with Jen that there are good actors in this. It is the material, I think, that fails them. All the actors do what they're supposed to, but Ergo, who's the actor has a history in British comedy. He's not so much like a Joker character. Yeah, he's not so much a Joker as just kind of a guy who talks a lot.
That is being very British face,
comic relief.
Too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Like, just from looking at him, you're like, I know I've seen. Like, he's like if Rob Brydon and now I can't think of his name now. Alan Partridge.
Oh, well,
geez,
you just
Steve Coogan. If Steve
Jackie
Coogan and Rob
Coogan.
Brydon, same guy.
Uncle Fester.
If Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon had a baby, they would look like this guy.
Ugh, God.
He has one of those British comic faces.
Maybe the widow of the Webb had a baby that looked like that, and that's why she killed it.
Maybe the baby was Alan Partridge. Aha. and if you knew that, you'd be like, all right, I can see doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. Kill this baby. It's so annoying. Such a twat.
Rolling the ball.
Geez,
you had another point too about these being thankless roles, and I don't know where the lead for Krull gets off having a problem with this. I mean, did the lead of the Star Wars prequels, Jake Lloyd or Hayden Christensen, did they complain?
Yes, they did.
At all?
You mean Star Boars?
Right. Oh,
I mean,
you mean the one who had a schizophrenic breakdown and the other one who quit acting?
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
that's because they were in bad movies, unlike Krull.
I mean, would you rather that Ken Marshall had a psychotic break after he made Krull?
No, I was being sarcastic. Like, I was saying that we're seeing a pattern here.
No, I know. Yes, Tim, I know how your sense of humor works.
Do you?
You know, though, another thing about Ken Martin, like, I don't know why everyone's down on him. Like you said, he does fine. He's doing that. He's really channeling that Errol Flynn energy where he's like, he's always happy to be fighting, you know? And
Yes.
he
I just love killing things.
yeah, he
Like,
loves
so
killing
glad.
things, and
Yeah.
you know, the romance in this. It's again, everything in this movie is pretty perfunctory because it's like, look, we got a lot of material to cover, so the romance isn't like huge, but there's enough that I'm like, yeah, I buy this. We get to see a nice scene where he's loyal to her instead of like fucking the weird beast changeling woman, and
Oh,
we
that's right. Because Liam Neeson apparently is like a pro wrestler and has a wife in every town.
yeah. See, even Liam Neeson gets a moment to shine. We hear that he likes to fuck.
That is a rich moment that pays off later.
Yeah.
I mean, he got them all fed because,
Actually,
you know,
I think
They eat the wenches. Yeah.
they're wandering wenches in the woods.
there is one big criticism I have of this film. Well, I have several, but one I'll mention now,
Okay.
and that is I really feel like they dropped the ball when Liam Neeson dies. He doesn't say like, "Oh, tell my wife I love her," and they're like, "Oh, which one?"
That would have redeemed the movie to a degree.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to upset the kiddies.
Yeah, so here's another thing too. When Thufir goes to see the Spider Woman, and then he goes and he has this big heart to heart with her. Then she dies, and then he gets back, and then he dies. Everyone's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
Like no one else had anything to do.
Well, they're waiting for him to come back.
Yeah, they have to wait
Yeah.
for him to come back because he's the he has to see the Widow of the Web because she's the only one who can tell him where the Black Fortress is going to land because they already killed off the one wizard.
Yeah, I understand that, like, narratively, like, within, like, the own internal consistent logic of the story, but as someone who is watching the movie, I don't get that.
Well, I guess it's a...
Well,
and
I guess
again,
the problem is when they were making this film, they were like, we should have the actors all acting as if they were actually the characters, and this is all real. Instead of saying, okay, actors, you should be like pretending that you're all actors playing parts and just like fuck around so that like...
No, I mean, how about, like, they write it so that the actors have to pretend to do something interesting? I mean, not to ask too much.
Well, what are you
I mean,
doing?
if
They
you're writing
have nothing
anything,
to
you can
do
make up
because
whatever.
they literally can't do anything until it's also like literally 2 seconds where they're like where he runs up and they're like around the campfire and he dies and it's like what should they have been doing in those 2 seconds? Like
I don't-
jigging?
It was long enough for me to wonder.
I don't understand why you would cut away from the Widow and the Web scene, though.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you?
Like, I mean, I understand that, maybe you want to see what Alyssa's doing in, because she's trapped in the Black Fortress, which I really like the production design in those scenes. Those are pretty cool. But,
Yeah.
if you were to give them like I mean, don't you get irritated playing side quests in video games? When you got to help some like farmer find their lost child or something, or like, oh, get all these coins in under a minute. You don't
I
wanna
am
cut
no
away.
more. I am no more irritated by anything than side quests in video games. It's like, oh, I work for you now. We need you to save the land, otherwise all of us will die. But first, we need you to herd these goats.
Yeah,
Like, fuck off.
I especially hate time trials.
Yeah, well, that's mostly because of rubber banding and like no matter how good you do, someone's always going to be on your ass. It's like, fuck you, game. You cheat. Mario Kart.
Well, it's like I want to play a game to relax. Like time trials just make me tense.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. Like but
No, the important thing is that like if you wanted to establish some kind of pressure, like the only pressure that they have is like the castle teleports, so you have to hurry up and get there before it moves again. But I mean, there are other ways to do that because the teleporting castle is kind of arbitrary. It's like, yeah, every day it moves. for some reason.
Well,
you need to hurry up.
Well, perhaps the beast decided I will have my castle teleport every day, so that a band of heroes doesn't just ride up here and fuck my shit up. Maybe he planned it out because he's he rules the universe. He didn't get that place by being an idiot.
Why doesn't he just leave?
Why doesn't he just leave?
He's in a spaceship.
He's got to first. His slayers are supposed to conquer the world of Krull. They have to go around and fuck shit up for a while.
Does he need to be there for that? Like, my boss doesn't come over to my apartment and be like, "Hey, you working?"
Okay, apparently the beast is a hands-on boss. He's not an absentee landlord or some shit.
Okay.
Tim, your boss or any boss would 100% come to your house if he could. I mean, let's be real. They employers don't like that their employees have free time. I think we've all realized that at our ages.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so that at least does track with the guy being the villain, basically.
I'm saying he's a micromanager.
Right.
Okay.
I will agree with Tim on one problem with this film, though. I don't know if Tim has mentioned this, but I'm sure Tim will agree with this. One big problem with the narrative of this film is that it's like, we're going to introduce a problem, and immediately here's the solution. Where it's like,
the problems don't last longer than one scene.
Yeah, it's like, we need to know where the castle is. Only the Emerald Seer can know. Oh, he's dead? Oh, good thing there's another solution that we didn't mention until this very point. Oh no, but the Iron Desert is like 1,000,000 leagues from here. Good thing they're fire mares, which we haven't mentioned until this point. So
horsies.
Yeah, there's a lot of that shit.
I'm surprised that Mike is so enthusiastic about a movie in which horses are a pivotal plot point, to be honest.
Well,
folks, he's afraid of them.
I'm not afraid of them.
Mike's afraid of horses.
I'm not afraid of horses.
I was watching this movie out of the corner of my eye while doing something more interesting, and I get to the scene with a pack of horses, and I'm like, yep, Jen's loving this part right now.
They were played by Clydesdales.
Yeah, they're fire mares.
All right.
Like Budweiser type horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what a Clydesdale is. I don't care.
Also, they're all mares? Like, how does that work?
Well, they're fire mares.
Wait. They're lesbian horses, Jen.
Oh, yeah. You know what?
Be inclusive.
Oh, okay. So they're lesbian separatist horses. That makes sense. Or maybe they're like in Jurassic Park where all the dinosaurs are female.
They're horses from the Isle of Lesbos. That's what I mean.
Although I gotta say, a couple of those horses did have junk, so I don't know what they're trying to tell us with this fireman.
You're being very gender essentialist about these horses.
Oh shit! I just realized I'm being kind of transphobic. I apologize. A fire mare.
Trans-equiphobic.
A fire mare can have a penis or a vagina, whatever she wants. I apologize.
It doesn't even have to be on fire or a horse.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all know a fire mare can have a gigantic horse dong or just an enormous horse vagina. Either
flappy
way.
Meat curtains.
Yeah,
Flappy horse meat curtains.
That you can use it as a saddle.
I also like what they do in this movie, where obviously it would be too much trouble for a feature to make kind of, I don't want to say accurate saddles, because it's the planet Krull. What the hell would a saddle on the planet Krull look like? So they just take regular English saddles and they just kind of cover them up with fabric so you can't see that they're regular English saddles.
Right. Well, maybe the English saddle was invented on Krull and then they brought it here.
Yeah, the English didn't ride English until 1983.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This fantasy film that has a fucking I don't know, Beksinski organic castle in it, and we're all busy talking about the fucking saddles being boring. Jiminy.
Yeah.
I don't care
it's
that
almost
much
like
about
the
the
movie didn't
saddles.
hold
I
our
just-
attention enough to let those things kind of escape our attention.
Well, I certainly didn't notice any saddles in this movie, so I guess it held my attention just fine.
You were too busy trembling behind the couch because you're deathly afraid of horses.
I'm not
You have
afraid
to
of
mind the
horses.
child.
You're
is
afraid of
what it
horses,
is.
Mike.
It's not true. Everyone listening, I am not afraid of horses.
Your wife and I both know that you are deathly afraid of horses.
Okay,
That's
so
why you hate horses so much. You're like my dog. You got to act real hateful, to front, but deep down inside,
Mike
you're
is
terrified.
not a colossal asshole like your dog.
I'm not
Yes,
scared
he
of
is.
horses. I'm merely a bigot.
Yes, thank you.
Excuse you, Tim. You know for a fact that Mike is an asshole.
Not on the level of your dog. So anyway, we're talking about Krull. One of the things that I noticed, and I pointed this out in other movies that are not interesting, is that you will see the music, or you'll hear the music, bending over backwards to carry scenes that do not deserve the emotional weight that the music is trying to imbue them with.
Very nice score by James Horner.
Very
Yes.
swashbuckly.
Yeah, like there's, symphonic strings and, these trumpets blaring, and it's just like it's a guy walking up a hill. And it's like, you have not earned this.
I like it. I mean,
don't, because
for a it does seem retrograde now because I think, well, I don't know. I feel like film music has gotten much more subtle as time has gone on. Like, for example, movies don't really do comedy music anymore, thankfully, because it's too obvious.
There are two ways to do that, and the bad one is the one that you hear. It's the one that you notice.
Right. Well, but it is an adventure film, and like if you're watching Captain Blood or The Seahawk or The Adventures of Robin Hood, you got that really great Eric Korngold score.
Same as it goes with music and comedy as it does with music and adventure. It's there to support the material, not to make you feel a certain way without the material doing any of the heavy lifting. Like, if it enhances what you're already seeing, but in this case the music is a stand-in for adventure. Be like, hey, we're playing all the adventure hits. Like, it must be an adventure, right? Like, we're playing goofy music. This must be a funny scene, right? Like, that's not how it works. It's there to elevate it. It's there as, it's a little bit of spice to, enhance the flavor rather than try to be like a whole, meal.
I don't know. This might just be a case of, again, pick your poison, where maybe Mike and I are a little more forgiving of the kind of tropiness of movies like this, like Krull or, I don't think. Maybe, I don't know. This
it's
movie...
It's a static wide shot of a guy climbing up the side of a hill, and we have this symphony blaring.
Sure, it's an impressive vista, and there's impressive music to go with it.
Yeah. Hey, is this the
there's
part where he's trying to get to the cave to get the glaive? Because rocks are falling. Rocks are falling on him.
I really feel like this is a matter of taste, and I will say that if I were to be saddled with Krull today for some reason,
now is that an English saddle or a Krullian saddle?
I don't know that I would necessarily take the Korngold approach with the music or the James Horner approach. I would probably tone it down because really the convention now is to be a little more subtle with the music cues. But for something like this, which is supposed to be about heroic deeds, I'm like, this is nice music. I like it. Whatever. I
mean, it's of its time. I don't see the music in this being any more presumptuous than the fucking orchestral score of Star Wars, where they're blasting those heroic themes constantly when Luke is just sitting around with his dick in his hand or something.
That was a lightsaber, Mike.
Oh, well, same.
Oh. Is that? Well, yeah, if that's what you want to call them. I mean, in universe, they refer to them as dicks.
It's no glaive.
It's like Shakespeare.
No.
Yeah.
Han Solo said we'll be sitting ducks out here.
We'll be sucking dicks out here.
We'll see if they'd done that. Star Wars would have been interesting.
Fanfiction.net.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with the music. I think the music is good. It's just that the film doesn't support what the music is saying.
I mean, if maybe that scene where he's climbing the hill, but I mean, the music works just fine when he's being chased by a giant spider, or
I do like the scene with the spider.
Yeah.
A giant animated stop motion spider, Francesca Annis in old makeup, and these two characters talking obliquely about their shared history. I like that. The rest of the movie, I could take or leave.
One thing I like that they're talking kind of obliquely about their shared history, because this is very obviously a film made in a different era where it was okay for things to not be explained. Like you could just let the audience fill some things in and be like, oh yeah, okay, they have history. That sounds great. As opposed to nowadays where they'd be like, look, we need to like fill in every single fucking gap and then just do like and then do like infinite like auxiliary heuristic material as well. So it's kind of nice.
That's
a Coke snowflake, I think, is what it is. Mike, I believe you co-authored a book that mentioned that.
Oh yeah.
That was a great book. I've read it several times.
It's a good book.
It was a great book. Yeah, it came out 8 years ago.
Buy my book.
The book is Misunderstanding Comics, folks, written by Tim Heiderich, illustrated by Mike Rosen. You can probably find it on. Don't go to Amazon. There's probably a copy on A-Libris or something like that. That's the service.
I hope. Well, you can go to misunderstandingcomics.com and just buy a copy directly.
Oh yeah, I think Tim still has some boxes of it. So yeah, go to misunderstandingcomics.com, buy a copy. Tim will send it to you in a black poly bag, I think.
Yeah, and then you can see what we've been yelling about.
But yeah,
I should have done more to promote it.
But we promote.
Sorry. I should have done more.
Tim, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We
it's got the long tail.
All struggled.
Yeah.
God, what was I saying about, I agree with Mike because that was kind of what I was getting at earlier where, everything every last piece of intellectual property has to be mined to
exhaustively
death, which is why we're currently in a universe of just endless Star Wars spin-offs.
And Marvel, let's not forget.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just trying to think of all the products that we have with Star Wars because you not only do you have the features, you have spin-off movies from the main characters. You had a movie about one of the main characters when he was younger that no one wanted to see. I feel really bad for Alden Ehrenreich because he's a really good actor and I don't know what happened to him after Solo. I think he did a TV show. You got TV shows like The Mandalorian. You got animated shows that I could also give less of a fuck about. Star Wars was the coolest thing in the world to me when I was 14 and I still enjoyed it as an adult, but now I'm just I just don't care anymore. I'm just stop. I just want to see something different.
Yeah, after the sequels, I just could not give a shit.
Yeah.
It's maybe it's yeah, I'm sure it's good. Maybe it is, but I can't work up enthusiasm for it anymore.
Yeah, and I didn't even bother to see the third sequel. I still haven't seen it.
You aren't missing anything.
Yeah, I figured.
Well, that is a thing, is everything that could possibly have any kind of fan base who are now, entering middle age is going to be resurrected and just gutted. So we're going to see infinite, Ghostbusters and Dark Crystal remakes and prequels and sequels and whatever. But Krull is a beautiful shining diamond. Its failure means that it will forever remain perfect.
It shall never grow old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, let's talk about that fucking castle, though. That fucking rules.
The Black Fortress?
Yeah, Leah, at least Lisette, whatever her name is, she spends a whole movie just running around in this weird fortress. Which is very clearly kind of organic. She's at one point on in an eye. There's another structure that very closely resembles teeth. It's weird. And people say this film is derivative. People say this film is derivative about a space monster in a biomechanical castle who's got a bunch of fucking weird white knights with I don't know, with weird jelly brains, and they're shooting people in this world where they also have, when they get married, you put fire and water, and also they're fire bears and giant spiders. How is this derivative? This is just it's so singular. Such a singular vision of an empty world full of just adventurers and spiders.
I mean, I will give you that, as I mentioned before, I really do I like the production design throughout this movie. I like that, at the beginning, the castle where I assume Colin lives is pretty minimalist compared to a lot of set design now, where it tends to be kind of busy. And it is nice to see something in an era before when, if you had like an evil structure, like a ship or a fortress that is a spaceship, they have to make it black and pointy.
I don't know. I mean, like, the ship looks like the Devil's Post pile, or, Devil's Tower or something.
Yeah, because it's evil.
Both landmarks with the words devil in it, so...
That's how you know it's bad. That's how you know it's full of evil.
Well, yeah. I like that they didn't make it look like, what's his name's ship from, like, the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, the less said about J.J. Abrams' aptitude, the better.
God, I feel like I'm the only one on the planet who hated that movie.
What did the ship? What was it? Wasn't it the Enterprise?
No. Eric Bana's ship, because he was like that rogue Romulan or whatever, and he had...
Yeah, it was just a fistful of spikes, which I think was the actual name of the ship.
He had like an evil pointy ship. Although that movie does have one of my favorite moments from any movie ever, which is when Captain Pike hails the Romulan ship. I forget the name of Eric Bana's character's name, and he says, introduces himself as, I'm Captain Christopher Pike. And then Eric Bana, as this evil Romulan, says to him, "Hi, Christopher, I'm Nero."
Yeah.
Like they're doing therapy over Zoom or something.
Yeah, very personable.
He was like, "Hey, Christopher, I love the Fear Street books."
That's right. I always wondered if that author took his name from Captain Pike.
Apparently he did. I read that he
funny.
Actually did take it from Captain Pike.
Well, there you go. But we were talking about pointy structures.
No, we were talking about anything but Krull because it cannot hold our interest.
Well, I think it held Mike's and my interest fairly well. But let's step out of the box a little bit, and I'll ask Tim. Besides the widow in the web sequence, was there anything that you did like about the movie?
The only impression it makes is that, again, the 5-pointed spider knife. That's the only impression that it had made. The thing that is called a glaive.
Yeah,
yes.
the glaive. Called a glaive because that's what it is. It's a glaive.
Right.
The glaive.
So that is the only impression that this movie has made on pop culture, and I will let it stand at that.
Wait. Oh, the only thing people remember about this movie is the glaive and the spider?
Yes.
Ah!
No, the only thing that people remember about it is the thing that is called a glaive.
Yeah, the glaive.
The chakram, yes.
Yeah, the glaive.
Right.
I don't know. I think a lot of people, if you ask them, like, hey, you remember that movie with the Cyclops? They'd be like, oh, yeah, the Cyclops. That Cyclops has real blinking action. I mean, that's pretty crazy. That was state-of-the-art special effects in 1983.
Right, yeah, there are great effects, there are great sets in this, there are talented and skilled actors in this. It's fucking boring, man.
Another thing I'll mention is there is a lot, like we said, how there's all this implication of like more history and world in Krull than we actually get to see.
Yeah.
Because one of the things they mentioned is the Cyclops. In ancient times, the Cyclops traded their second eye for foresight to the Beast, which implies, the Beast has been here before. This is not his first rodeo on Krull, which also it seems to be implied by the fact that Yerber, the old one, knows all this shit about the Beast, Yeah. And when the Beast shows up, everyone's like, hey, it's the Beast. that dang old Beast is
this
here.
Asshole again.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of backstory that we're not privy to. And if it hadn't failed, I'm sure we'd be getting a whole prequel miniseries on Netflix all about the Beast's first appearance on Krull.
Yeah,
the
when
Beast's
he was just a little beast.
Yeah, and just think of like what hot young actor could play a young Yerber when he's Yerber the young one instead of Yerber the old one.
Yeah, Jen, maybe you could get the guy from the Solo prequel. He's not working.
You know what else?
Yeah.
I do like when Yimner. What is his name? I can't.
His name is
Yinner. Sorry, Yinner, the old one. When he first appears, and Colwyn is like from the Granite Mountains. It's like, oh, okay, so this is a guy again. Apparently, he's like really important. He's known in this world. It's a thing. We are never told why. We don't get anything. I mean, we don't really need to know why. We just need to know he's an old guy who shows up and gets the hero's quest started. He's I don't know what you call that figure in
And ask Joseph Campbell. I
The
don't know.
Yeah.
sage.
He's like a sage. You know, he's there.
It's sort of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
the thing is that on Krull, the life expectancy is about 45. So anybody who lives to 60 or older is called the old one and considered very important.
I do like that
Yes,
he's
yeah,
called the old
why
one,
not?
but nobody is like, oh, but the Emerald Sage, who is like 100 years old, nobody remarks on his age.
Well, he
it's,
doesn't
you
seem
know,
to go
there's
out
old
much.
and then there's
Yeah,
sage.
yeah.
Yeah. He's like middle-aged old.
Yeah.
Sage is old. So the Beast.
Also,
like,
you know what? It's good. Okay, look, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yinner, they're similar characters, but
Mhm.
the difference is Yinner, when he was young, he fucked, whereas Obi-Wan Kenobi was a weird, sexless monk.
Oh, are we considering prequels as canon now? 'Cause that's not how I fuck with Star Wars.
Oh,
I mean, we kind of have to, Tim, because it was Lucas. I'm not any happier
No, we
about it
don't.
than you are.
No, we don't, because of Jar Jar. Like we don't have to include the prequels as canon.
Oh, I see.
Oh yeah, that's another actor whose life was destroyed by the prequels. Ahmed Best. He said he considered
Right.
suicide after Phantom Menace came out.
Wow.
Hey, so did I.
Hey, wow, George. Thanks a lot, George Lucas. How many lives has he destroyed? Just a trail of just shattered psyches in his. Wait.
You want the toys, kids? Huh? You want the toys or not?
Well, I mean, a lot of people are still getting residuals off Willow, off
Yeah, at what
Indiana
cost?
Jones.
At what cost?
Yeah, at what cost?
I
Jen?
mean, you got
Come
to
on.
break a few eggs.
I'm just saying, George Lucas, history's greatest monster.
Well, where's the lie? One question I do have to ask about this movie, and I would like to put it to you, gentlemen. If your older male friend turned into an animal, would you pet him?
Wait, does that happen in this movie?
Yeah.
Of course.
Wait, who turns into an
Ergo-
animal?
Contextually,
When
yes.
Ergo does it.
Ergo turns into a puppy, and he turns into a tiger, both of which the young child pets.
I mean,
Which seems
probably
weird
should pet
to
the
me.
Tiger.
What, are you saying it's too gay? Is that what you're saying? Being a
What, that men
homophobic?
can't show affection, Jen? What's the
Tim-
problem?
Mike, the age gap.
We're getting
come
into
on.
age gap discourse here. I think it's a very nice thing that Ergo does because Titch wants a puppy, and Ergo, who just wants a gooseberry pie, he just loves the fucking gooseberry
what a
pie so much.
Fucking one-note joke.
That's his thing. Look, it's like Garfield with lasagna. People were like, "Look, it was hilarious in Garfield. It's gonna be hilarious now."
Okay, yeah, let's milk that joke for 30 years.
Maybe not. Maybe that didn't pan out as much as they thought. But you can see the logic. But
It is kind of fucked up to give the kid a puppy that he can't keep.
but the kid seemed to figure it out. I think the kid understood what was going on because the way he's
Like I've been petting an old naked man.
yeah. Well, the way he says when Colwyn is like, "Where's Ergo?" and the kid is like, "Oh, he'll show up later." It implies to me the kid knows this is Ergo. The kid,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
thought they
saying,
were lying
that
to
kid
him.
knows what he's doing. He's not. It doesn't count.
Yeah, look, Jen, that child consented
Yeah.
to the relationship with the older man.
Wait a second.
Come on.
Wait a second, Jen. So, are you saying that when this child is petting the dog, who is actually Ergo, both characters are grooming each other?
Yeah, I guess that is what I'm saying.
All right.
I
you
think
guys
How did we
haven't
get
answered my
here?
question. Would you pet your older male friend if he turned into an animal?
yeah, I'd do that. I would 100% pet any man that turns into an animal.
Well,
Yeah,
you
Mike.
probably have some
For Mike, he
trauma.
doesn't even have to turn into an animal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all. Those are all the questions I have about Krull. To be honest, I think it's very clear to me how both of you feel about the movie.
You know what?
Right.
You know what? I'll say this: when I was a young man, when I was younger, I went to another movie that I thought was going to be like Krull because it sounded like it. A movie called Kull the Conqueror. That was no Krull though.
Wasn't that who was in that?
I think it was like the guy who was Hercules or something. You know
Was it Kevin Sorbo?
Yeah, I think it was that guy.
Oh.
I don't know. It wasn't good.
That guy has a lot of misinformed opinions.
Yeah, he's not good.
He's no Xena warrior princess, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Now here you go again. You say you want burrito. Lucy Lawless, everyone. Also on Battlestar Galactica, the reboot.
Yeah. But, mostly Xena.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. The Beast.
The Beast Reborn. Oh, wait, we're not talking about Dune.
No, yeah. Dune is not for another year. It corrects a lot of the mistakes that Krull had. The Beast doesn't really... He's a desperate old guy. But other than that, he isn't really a menace. Like, I mean, if I were to compare him to, Darth Vader, first scene, he enters after, a battle, amongst the bodies of, dead stormtroopers and rebels. This guy's here to fuck shit up. You see him choking his own men. You see him killing people throughout the movie. He's a bad guy. Sauron is like a notion for the majority of Lord of the Rings, but in the beginning you see him, if you were there 3,000 years ago, you see him as this armored juggernaut fucking shit up on the battlefield. You have a really clear idea of why Sauron sucks and why Darth Vader is an asshole. But throughout the entirety of Krull, you only have the vaguest of notions of what the hell this beast deal even is. All we know is he came here to steal, someone's girlfriend, which makes him as big of a menace as, Robert Redford in Indecent Proposal.
So Tim, what you're saying is that, the fact that the Beast is basically coercing this woman into marriage. The Beast is basically an interstellar rapist. That's not a bad thing. That's not bad enough for you. It's not enough to establish him as the villain.
If he turned into a dog, would that make it okay, Mike?
Well, yeah, I'd pet an older beast that turns into a dog.
Aha! And the beast can shapeshift because he turns into her lover. So if the beast turned into a dog, you would be okay with that. He's not even a bad guy anymore.
Wait a minute.
I'm not saying I wouldn't marry the Beast. I would marry the Beast in a heartbeat. She doesn't want to marry the Beast, though. That's the point here. The Beast comes down in his castle. He doesn't need to go out and fuck shit up personally because his slayers are they're fine. They're doing fine. They're killing people left and right. They're really good at it. They can actually hit people unlike fucking stormtroopers. So he doesn't need to get personally involved. He can stay in his castle and make weird, vague threats at this woman and be like, oh, by the way, I'm going to fucking have my slayers kill everyone on your whole planet unless you fuck me. I mean, that's a threat. That's a credible threat.
Well, it's coercive.
Well, I guess because it is prophesied that there's going to be a king and a queen, and their son is going to rule the universe. I assume that the Beast has a problem with that because he says that he would like to rule the galaxy with Lyssa by his side.
There you go. That's right. So the Beast is he doesn't want to. He's Horde Prime. He wants to rule the whole galaxy. He doesn't want to give it up.
It's kind of a wash then. I mean, who do you root for? The baby that we haven't met. I mean, the baby could grow up to be an asshole.
Well,
he could be a worse beast.
Well, I guess they should have made some sequels.
Can you imagine if, because I guess this movie did even more poorly than Willow because there was no trilogy of books to follow it up where they explained how Colin and Lyssa's son grew up to be fat and spoiled and then didn't really have much to do with the story after that.
Well, it wasn't that it failed so bad. I think the reason is we don't have a lunatic like George Lucas who has an infinite well of bad ideas to continue putting shit out. They told the story they wanted to tell, and they're like, "That's it. Our race is run. We don't need any more."
Go ahead.
The
Tim.
takeaway then that I'm getting from this is don't indulge. Don't even give the time of day to sci-fi fantasy movies. It's a cursed crossover.
Well, let's.
What other sci-fi fantasy movies are there?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask. Before we close the lid on that box, can you guys think of any other movies which combine the genres?
Well, I was going to say Willow, but I think Willow's just a crappy movie.
No, Willow's just
Willow's
just straight.
Yeah, that's fantasy.
It's like a modified.
Okay, yeah,
Hobbit.
I think it's the Lucas stink that is doing it. So I consider the aggregate works of George Lucas as sci-fi fantasy. Maybe just don't watch George Lucas movies.
I don't. I would not.
Wait, but you didn't answer my question. Like what? Like Willow doesn't really fit the bill because there are no sci-fi elements to it. It's like a high fantasy movie. Like, are there other movies that we're forgetting or haven't heard of? Maybe so. I don't know why you would be able to name them that combine sci-fi and fantasy tropes. Because like I'm kind of drawing a blank.
I think the point that Mike is making is that like he's not a fan of Star Wars, and that is kind of a sci-fi fantasy. I mean, it's got spaceships and magic.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. That's a sci-fi fantasy.
But that's space opera. It's like Flash Gordon.
It does have fantasy elements.
Flash Gordon
though.
have magic in it?
It's got kind of magic in it, so I'd almost say, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I think would the Dark Crystal count? That feels like it's kind of,
I wouldn't say there's sci-fi in it.
I mean, there's some
because it's I mean, maybe like what throws you off about Dark Crystal is that there are creatures in it, but like creature characters aside, it's like it's still fantasy. Like,
but
Labyrinth is fantasy. Neverending Story is fantasy. Dragon Slayer is fantasy. Even the shitty ones like you got your. I will say that Krull is a better movie than Hawk the Slayer. Hawk the Slayer has like a, kind of like a weird like sword that you can like that does magic things, but it's a magic sword. It's not like some kind of a laser weapon. And then
it's just like a magic glaive.
Sword and the Sorcerer is, same thing. It's high fantasy. I mean, there's a triple-bladed sword, but, somebody could plausibly make a triple-bladed sword. You don't need magic or science to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably do like a D8 plus 2.
Wait, Master.
If you disagree, write in. I'm curious.
Well, here's a sci-fi fantasy movie for you: Masters of the Universe.
Hey, there you go.
Oh yeah, that's not a good movie.
Right. So that kind of covers it then. Don't mix your sci-fi with your fantasy. It'll only end in tears. Or middling podcast content.
That movie's pretty entertaining, but like it's not good. It's got what's her name? Meg Foster as Evil Lynn.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds very good, actually.
Yeah,
that's a great name.
Yeah,
they spent 2 minutes thinking of it.
It's because when they decided on it, they realized it was perfect and they couldn't do any better.
I mean, can you imagine having a baby that's so evil you have to name it Evil Lynn? That's fucked up.
It's like, I know what I'm about.
Yeah.
That's the kind of baby that you kill right away and become a widow in a web.
Well,
yeah, because then you're going to be like, this baby won't let me rule the universe. I have to kill this baby. You
know who should have killed their baby to keep them from making them not rule the universe? Queen Bathmorda.
She tried.
Yeah.
She did. She fucked up by not killing a bunch of babies. Because first there was a baby, there was a prophecy baby, and she probably shouldn't have raised a daughter. I mean, that was probably a bad move.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they're destined to replace their malevolent parents, I guess.
Yeah.
Willow's really not very good.
No, it isn't.
Not as good as Krull, that's for sure.
I don't know, like because for me, like, Willow is like entirely a nostalgia thing. It was a movie that I uncritically enjoyed as like a tween, and so there's still like that little bit of like like I have fond memories of watching this. I didn't grow up with Krull. I kind of look at it as obviously like it. I tend to agree more with Tim. Like I am very critical of it. I do feel bad for a lot of the people involved because I feel like they earnestly tried to make an entertaining film that was a lot derivative of Star Wars, to the point where you have like a ship coming into frame as like the very first shot of the movie, like bearing down on a planet. Very Star Wars.
Yeah, and then nothing happens for 10 minutes.
And it's a movie with like certain visual pleasures to it, which is silly but entertaining. That's really like my assessment of it. I would like to watch the riff tracks of it again. I do have this on DVD and in a 1080p copy, which I'll hang on to because someday I might want to get high and watch this again.
Yeah. I mean, high def is the only way to watch this movie.
Yeah, it looks really nice, and
it does.
Those fire mares are sure cool. I want to
ride
a
especially if you're a horse
so
girl.
Bad.
I mean, they're horses.
Everyone's got their something. Yeah. I want to throw a chakram.
You mean a glaive? The glaive?
No, just any nice chakram.
Oh, I mean, as long as it's not the glaive, I guess. So.
One glaive's as good as another. It could be a polearm or a sword.
Yeah, I mean,
Here's a challenge for you, Tim.
Okay.
If you were going to run this as a game, do you think you could improve the storyline?
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's hear it.
I want to see you do it.
Why should I indulge you?
Well, we could do it on Twitch.
That is a lot of work to indulge a premise that I'm already not even on board with.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm kidding. Like, I'm not really like, Tim, run this as a game, but like, I would actually be curious, like, if you were to if you were to sit down with like a red pen or something, what do you think you would change?
I would cut the characters. I would move the action up. I would maybe backfill some of the stuff from the beginning so that we can get on to, the actual journey, the part that's interesting. Josh Olson made a great point about Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which is, mostly it's a lot of like wacky bullshit that happens in like the first half of it, but the movie opens with a woman being shot in the face and a Nazi running around to like reassure the audience, like, look, interesting things are going to happen, just stick with us. And I think that the movie just spends too much of the beginning on its lore, and then it doesn't really follow it up with the doing of, like, the guys go on a quest. The king makes a plea that convinces a bunch of brigands to go along with them. They run into some minor troubles. They get some horses and end up at the castle. I mean, the story itself is not very interesting, I want to say.
Well, do you think that there's a way that you could maybe introduce more conflict into the story, or maybe flesh out the characters that would help?
One of the things I would say is maybe give some of the Band of Merry Men more stake in this, because like when Liam Neeson's character dies, and this is the thing that I realized too, when they're like running across that bridge at the end, like there's an earlier shot of the whole party going across it and one guy falling off, and there's like 9 of them, and then on the way back, them rescuing the princess, there's like 5 of them, and how do you think any of those 4 guys who were basically just like talked into giving up their lives for this nebulous quest, like, how do you think they would feel about it?
Well, don't you? Yinner told them that this was a fame that could leave to their children. Yeah. He had a whole speech about it. Weren't you paying attention?
Dead guys aren't going to have children.
Well, they do seem more like guys who'd be like, fuck off.
Well,
Yeah, and like, I get the point, but like, we just come across these guys. Yeah. Like, they just exist as like D&D characters where it's like, I'm fully formed and I have no past history.
I'll say this, like, I do feel that, if this, and you don't even have to go as far as like a Game of Thrones, because you're making this for families, obviously. This is the, like, it's a typical American film where it's like, yeah, we'll have some violence, but we're not going to do anything particularly salacious because that would cut into our ticket sales. I feel as though you could have made it a little more difficult for Cohen to win over this group of bandits, because I mean, like, these guys, they look like hard asses, and the scene really plays like they're gonna like knock him on the head and rob him. Like, they'll say like, oh yeah, sure, we'll go along on your quest, and then they'll try to cut his throat.
Except for Robbie Coltrane, he looks like he's from a different movie.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
He's so young, it's so funny.
This
like
film,
Liam Neeson looks young, but Robbie Coltrane like looks like a completely different person.
Yeah,
he's not wearing the Hagrid hair.
Yeah.
Well, because the thing is, look, this is like we said, it's kind of it's a swashbuckling, jovial adventure. They can only be so grumbly about the quest. Before you start being like, oh, but these guys are a bunch of like assholes. This is a Game of Thrones. They're not going to be like, so they're won over pretty easily because like they want to show that
Yeah,
these guys are, they're
yeah, but I get what you're saying, but like I said, you don't have to go as far as Game of Thrones. Like I'm not like he
At
doesn't
least-
he does like I'm not saying that Cohen has to tempt them with like pussy or something. Or do something
give
like really underhanded to try to like be like, oh, he has because he's a very pure character. But if there was maybe a little more of like a
Well, give them an arc. Give them some skin in the game. Like, why can't anyone be like one of the guards who saw like all of his comrades slaughtered by the beast? Why couldn't it be someone who's like lost a family or something to like these rampaging hordes?
yeah,
The only person who's this even as affected is Thufir, whatever his character's name really is.
Wiener.
Because he's Wiener. Because like only the other, because he at least like saw some of these black riders and he's like, oh shit, Beast is back. But like no one seems affected by it. It's kind of like the in the prequels where Amidala's like, our people are dying, and like I haven't seen a single one of your people be mildly inconvenienced. I haven't seen any of your people.
Well,
where is this happening?
We saw a whole castle of people get killed in the beginning. And
Right.
Tolkien has like skin in the game because he wants to get those manacles off. But he's also, even though he's a bandit, he's a man of honor, which is why he didn't want to take them off right there. He was going to take them off at the end when the quest was successful because he's that kind of guy. He's
Okay, so that's 2 characters.
yeah.
We have 8 more.
They're background dudes. What, you want to spend the whole time like being like, okay, every single one of these like 8 randos like has to get a full backstory. Who cares about them? They're there to get killed. Just saying.
they're red shirts.
Yeah, the main guys.
They're red tunics.
The main dudes who you get the screen time and the character development. That you're like, okay, these are the guys that I want to not die. But the background guys, it's like maybe a little less. They get their moments.
Well, I think
Liam Neeson had his 100 wives, and Robbie Coltrane was the grumpy one who ends up being like, no, it's worth it. So they get their moments, but like they're not like they're not the main guys, so they don't need that much development.
Yeah, well, you've got the cart before the horse here because you're using the existence of characters to justify the scene where they die.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, well, if you cut that out, you can kind of, you can, what is it like in math where you slash out the divisor? Like you can just cut out both ends of that. But then if you do that, then you suddenly don't have a script because it isn't important whether they're there or not.
No, it's important because, look, if you're like, we're going to go fight the beast, and the audience is like, oh, you're doing it with 3 guys? Okay, right. But if you're like, okay, we got about like 15, then it's like, okay, I believe this is a party. This is a party that's going to go and like kill some beast. So you need the background guys just for believability.
Well, I don't know. Like in this movie, they do the thing where it's like, no, I must go alone. So I don't know if you necessarily need the cannon fodder unless you're trying to make like a tie-in video game.
Well, you need to look like again. I mean, if you want a movie that's only like 10 minutes long, then fine. But like, you need some like
yeah, that's the problem.
You need some shit to like to fill it out. So that
I wonder if there was an Amiga game of this or something.
Who would want to do that?
Let's see. In 1983, several games were developed with the Krull license. A Parker Brothers board game and card game was produced. An arcade game was released. And a console game was originally planned for the Atari 5200, but changed to the Atari 2600 because of poor sales of the 5200 system. Wow. Failure piling upon failure here.
That's like doubly sad. Yeah, wow.
Well, Tim, if you ever do get a wild hair to, improve this narrative by running it as a game with your magnificent GM skills, I, for one, would be curious to play it.
I already got other games to run.
It's okay. I'm not being serious, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying I would have faith in you as a GM.
Right. Well, good. I mean, I hope that that faith is well placed this Sunday when I resume my Traveler campaign.
Oh, did you get the article I sent you about Traveler?
Yes, but I haven't had a chance to read it. I've been recording this dumb podcast.
Well, I think we've said enough about Krull. This one's pretty easily available. Is it? Like I said, it has become a cult film in the years since 1983. I think that if you haven't already seen it, you'll probably have to watch it with a pretty uncritical eye. Or if you're like Mike and you saw it when you were 8, you might love it. I don't know.
See, that's the primacy effect. That's what I was trying to describe in our last episode.
That's right. We did make a correction on the official show Twitter. HYST pod at twitter.com.
Right. Yeah.
Mike, is there anything you would like to say to Tim?
I'm not scared of horses.
I think we've established that.
He's scared of horses.